monthly meeting for the month of July. I trust you have a good time coming here. Let's pray. In Jesus' name, Father, we thank you. We appreciate you for your love. We honor you because you are our God, you are our King, you are our Lord. We ask today that your kingdom come in our meeting today. We ask that your will be done in our lives in Jesus' name. We ask for your blessing today over our meeting. Lord, we ask that your spirit will come and tabernacle with us. Holy Spirit, we ask you come teach us that which we do not know. Help our lives, mold us, shape us into wholesome leaders in Jesus' name. We also ask that your glory would tabernacle with us. Help our teacher, help our facilitator. Lord, you give them utterance, give them guidance, give them the leading. That, Lord, your word and your spirit and the power will come with it in Jesus' name. Thank you for every cohort seated. Thank you for those who are coming. Lord, we ask you bless each and every heart that is seated here, that our hearts will be rightly positioned to receive. Give us an open heart, an open mind to receive of your word. Thank you for everything. Thank you for this atmosphere. We declare this atmosphere blessed. We declare our environment that it shall work to our favor in Jesus' name. Thank you, Jesus, for in Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today? Okay. It's a wonderful day, isn't it? All right. I would like to start by asking the co-reps to give us a breakdown of how the last, what is it again? Is it regional meeting or what did we say? But you know what I'm talking about, right? Our last class review that held. So let's start with.
Okay. We had the online, should we call it online class discussion? And we discussed about the wholesome leader that's in the family. How does leadership works within the home setting? And we talked about the man has to get it right. And it was a good number being online. And then we gave various inputs based on the last class. And one of the key points was let's get our hearts right, our head right, and then our hands right. And to get your heart right is to connect to Jesus, to connect to God. And then to get your head right, it means leadership. It talks of knowledge, renewing your mind, developing yourself. So you cannot be ahead until there is something in your head. So as men, we are placed already in the position of leadership for our families. So we also had members who were married who gave us some instances that change happens regularly. That means in marriage, in life, even as you personally growing, change is a regular occurrence. So how do you manage those changes that comes in your marriage? And how do you mitigate those challenges that come? So you cannot really avoid the challenge. But one thing that will help you is that if you keep growing, if you keep learning, then you'll be able to overcome those challenges. There we talked about how do you get the right spouse, the right leadership within your home. So if you don't get, most times people look for perfect spouse or that, but everyone is in a working, should I say we are under construction. So it's two people, no two persons are the same. So we keep working together to make sure that we achieve our aim. Can two work together except they agree? So whichever two pair that comes together. They have to find a way to work together. But we as men, being made as a leader in the family because of the structure, and most times people feel that, okay, I'm the man, I'm the leader. Apart from the home, that's where your headship comes for the woman, and it's not to just boss her around, but it's a helper. So help comes to you when you now be able to strategically state what is your philosophy, what is your aim, what do we do in this family, what is our occupation, how do we fend for the family. So with that, you'll be able to put the family members in their position to be able to help you activate that purpose. Yes, sir.
So yes, that event was wonderful. That online call. I'm guessing you also are asking about the physical meetups. That's one. I was not available for that event for a very serious reason. In Just South. So you can comment for Just North. But for Just South, I was not available in that meeting. So, but the one he mentioned was the general call that we had. We had a general call, everybody who was online that day. It was fun.
Okay. Who was around for Just South here? Okay, can you give us a brief?
Good day, everyone. We had a meeting on that particular day, and it was quite impactful. We deliberated on, I think, 2 to 3 topics. We started from the last class by Engineer Solomon Chikam, and we talked about a lot. Even with the book, he said the 7 habits of effective people, where he mentioned the level 1, the dependent, level 2, the independent, then level 3, the interdependent, which I believe we deliberated more. There were even one of us wasn't even around the last class, but due to the last meeting we had, he got an insight on everything we discussed with Dr. Benjamin. Then we also talked about self-leadership by Dr. Kola Ojo, and that too. And we also shared a bit of our experiences and also how we have been putting in practice of what we have been learning here. So we encourage each other to do more and to see that we'll bring up more. I think that was the first version of the zonal meeting. So we will make sure we do more in the next coming one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You were there. Okay. What was your takeaway from that meeting? Basically, what was it for you?
Good morning, all. Of particular interest for me was the class of Dr. Ojo, which talks about create. For you to be able to govern yourself, to have self-leadership, you need to itemize your priorities. Create has to do with having a concise vision. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be ecological, environmental friendly, and it needs to be as if it's now the goal you are achieving. And also it needs to be time bound, and then it needs to have an end step, that at the end of it, this is what you achieve. So for me, that was the takeaway. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. My next question will go this way. With our last class on family life, can anyone here tell us how they have begun to make impact in their family, or probably plans you've drawn up? Anybody? Based on the last class on family life. Okay.
I was helped a lot by the last class. It was so I have a problem. I have a problem allowing anybody to do anything for me. And there is something that the speaker said in the last class. I wrote it down in several different ways. And one way that I wrote that down is, if you do not allow your helper help, you are denying her of our purpose. And he didn't say those words exactly in that way, but he said that anything that is not doing its assigned purpose will be frustrated. I said that's one of the ways of the causes of frustration. So normally I wouldn't share my troubles. I wouldn't show them because I don't want to burden anybody. And that day I started thinking, so what's the point of having someone in your life who is supposed to be your helpmate and you won't even let them help you? And so I thought about that for a long time, a very long time. It was not an easy thing, but I have started to try to be more, vulnerable. And I'll allow my lady, even though I'm not married, we're still planning on that, to know and try to suggest, or at least just be there for me. So that's very helpful. It has helped me worry less about several things. And so from the personal level, I've benefited, but also my relationship has benefited. We talk a lot better. It's a lot better than before. So yes. So that, for me, that's the part that has affected me personally.
Please, a round of applause for him. So if I get you correctly, you are saying that you no longer want to be uptight. You've opened up a little bit. Am I correct? Okay. And you seem shy by that already. Are you shy? I understand you anyways. It's not really easy to open up, especially when it feels like a lot of things are on you, So you always want to be up and doing. Yes, anybody else? I'll call names. What have you been able to plan out for your family? Were you in the last class? Yeah? You missed it. But you're married. Okay, you followed online. Beautiful.
One thing I picked up from listening to the class was the centrality of not doing things, as I said, on your own. There's a part of you, there's a part where you learn to depend on God. There's a part where you learn to trust whoever you're working with, if it's your spouse, if it's your business partner, whoever it is. I mean, for you to even work with those people, you must have vetted them. You know the kind of people you are associating with, so they are trustworthy people. But you learn to lean on people. You learn to trust, interdependence. You learn to trust, learn to lean, because you need that support to push you to get to where you're supposed to go to. And that takes a certain level of faith, which, honestly, for me, I looked back at my interactions with my wife, and for a lot of things, I have acted out of fear towards her, towards how she would see me, towards what other people are thinking about how I relate with her. And that has guided a lot of my actions. And that taught me to instead look at life differently. It's not about fear of what people will think, fear of what she will think, fear of whatever expectation I'm not meeting, but it's from a place of faith. It's from a place of trust. Thank you.
Please, a round of applause. So this is more opening up, right? You're beginning to open up more on a lot of things. Okay. Communication. What are your thoughts on communication?
I just want to add something. When he talked about opening up, it is very important. Important in the sense that you don't know who is going through what you're going through. So the person learns, from it. None of us are perfect, and in this class, we are not looking at anybody's face. No. We are here to learn and help one another to grow. So when you speak, please speak from your heart. So whatever you have gone through, somebody else can learn from it. We all are here to learn from one another. Thank you.
So more opening up, please, gentlemen, open up, not just at home, even here now. Mommy has said that. All right, so communication. What do we think communication should be like in a wholesome family? You are not here in the last class.
Thank you very much. I tend to consider this like a therapy session. So I'll speak from a personal perspective. For communication, I have an ideology when we talk about communication. When there is no feedback, there's no communication. So if I tend to open up to my supposed spouse, I'm expected to listen, I'm expected to understand, and I'm expected to give a feedback. So putting it to my personal life, I tend to prioritize communication to a whole great level. And I also am a firm believer that without open or effective communication, there won't be leadership. So if I'm expected to disseminate an information, it needs to go towards the right channel, the right medium, and it has to speak its purpose. So personally, I tend to consider communication as a top priority, personally, even in relationship or as a family. I don't expect my wife to just, you're supposed to know that gas is finished without, prior notice. It's not magic, it's not rocket science. So with communication, I believe bonding and, your bonding, your relationship will definitely be tight. Thank you very much.
I have one more question for you. As a newly married person, he's newly married, by the way. How many months now? 2 months or 3? 2 months, right? Okay. He's already facing gas issues at home. It is well. You would overcome. Quick question. Being newly married, what has been the greatest challenge in terms of that communication? How have you been able to manage it? Because from what you just mentioned, it seems like, yes, there's that gap. So how have you been able to manage communication in that aspect as a newly married person?
Okay, that's a very good question. Now, it is very challenging, sincerely. Imagine going 3 decades and then settling down with someone that has gone 2.5 decades or almost 3 decades from different background, different perspective, different ideology, different culture. Everything is like a whole different ball game. Now you need to start learning from an infant level. I used to refer to my wife as, you are a matured baby. Why I tag it that way is because there are times she will do things a child will do, but you can't actually treat it like a child. She's an adult, but behaving like a child. So it's more or less like a baby running to you, crying. You know that automatically it's either this baby is sick or is hungry. There are moments they don't speak. Their body language says it all. So you need to learn from what they say, what they act, how they act is also very key. One thing is sure, it's not easy, but it's really worth it. Thank you.
Please, if you're not clapping, you're wrong. Please, a round of applause for him. That was very insightful. Okay.
This communication thing, whether it's with your spouse or with the people you work with and so on, it is very, very vital. I remember one of my sisters, was going through some few challenges, I didn't know. But though I noticed a few things. But of course, it never really occurred to me to ask, so I just waved it off. So one day we were talking, and then, the person said to me, but you're supposed to know this now, but you're supposed to know that, and I'm like, I'm not a magician, so how can I know? So you see, this communication, this open communication is very important, whether it's your brother, your sister, your parents, and then particularly for spouses. If there is no open communication, there's going to be war, and like, he's learning very fast. I must congratulate you, It's not easy. You have to learn the body language. You have to learn the tone. You have to learn the word, and what the word really means. Particularly when exactly, the woman might be saying, you see, I don't really like this. It's not that she doesn't like it. She likes it. But you might just think, she said she doesn't like it, and then walk away. And then you come back and then see a woman frowning. And you are like, what is wrong? You can't explain it, And then it comes back to that thing. And then she tells you, did I tell you I didn't like it? So learning all those things, are very important in a relationship, particularly when it comes to marriage relationships. So you are doing a good job, young man. Thank you.
So 1 star for you for doing a good job. All right. Communication. Let's hear from a married man for a long time. How has it been? And what have you learned? And what can you share with us?
Praise God. Good morning once again. Well, from my own developed mind, I think communication plays a vital role in marriage. You see, when you don't communicate, everything around you will be what? Distractions and confusion. Now you can imagine being in a family without communication. That means both the two parties will operate on individual goals. You people are not going to be centralized to pursue whatever it is that life has for you people. So for me, I think communication plays a very important role. When you was asking the question this morning, what you learned, what about communication? This is something I have instituted in my own family. We are just 3. But what I do is this. If there's anything, I will allow them say their views. I will also let them know my own view. Even when I'm the father, they are still depending on me. But I will allow everybody say, then I will give my own advantages and reasons why I'm looking at it this way. Do you know why? So that whatever it is that we agreed upon, tomorrow you are not going to say that I am only doing it my way. So that has helped me. That today, if I want to eat fried rice, from home they will call me and ask me. Then I'll ask them, what are you people looking at? She will now say, why can't we do this? I say, what about the girl? The girl will call me and said, this is what mommy said. So I said, okay, do this. We'll go ahead with this. Simple. And you see, everybody will eat what he feels like eating, and at the end of the day, every one of us is satisfied. Thank you.
Please, a round of applause from a developed mind in the marriage industry. Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. Would you say that one of the reasons why you ask their opinions is only because you want their opinion to be heard, so that they will not say you are the only one deciding, like you mentioned? Or is it also a way, is it a leadership quality for you to be able to also give proper judgment at the end of the day? Do you understand my question?
You see, I have a daughter, and one day, whether I like it or not, she's going to be married. So one thing I must do is I must train her in the right path for her to follow. So for me, there are times I might be wrong. I'm not always right. So I need them also to get me corrected, so that I don't just feel like I know all. Manager, are you with me? You know, very soon you will be married. You understand? You understand? Sometimes I may be very, very wrong. You understand? So at least I need somebody to checkmate me and correct me also. That life is not all about me. You understand? Life is not all about me. Everybody in that family have something to build for the family to stand. So that is my own ideology.
Thank you very much. Of course, your daughter, whether you like it or not, but you must like it. You don't have a choice. So, thank you very much for that. Love. Why are you shaking your head? Love, sacrifice, respect. What role do you think these things play? Can you be able to give us your own understanding of these things? Because some people will say respect is love. Some will say respect is sacrifice. Some will say love is sacrifice. Can you tell us your own understanding? Having attended the Wholesome Leadership Family Life class, what do you think applies? Thank
you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I apologize for coming late due to emergencies. Well, the question you just asked, sometimes I feel somebody or someone here, a cohort, will have been the person to answer this. Because love, it's complex to me. Let me use that mathematical word. It's complex. Just like you said, some will say respect is love. The inverse, someone will say disrespect is love. Because like some ladies will say, if my husband or my spouse did not beat me, they did not love me. But love in general is a huge sacrifice that one have to offer. Irrespective of what the other party is giving, you have to love even till death. If it's love we're talking about, not the normal I love you stuff that have lots of condition, in which is the situation in which we found ourselves on this planet Earth. When you're saying you love, let me use ladies and guys. They said you're expecting, or we're expecting that you get married. Now, your partner in which you love, possibly genuinely or not genuinely, would that person reciprocate? It will kind of boost the love you have for that person. But if the person did not, it kind of die off. But on the natural sense, love, irrespective of what the other party is giving, you have to love, just like Christ loved the world. That is my own understanding. It doesn't matter if the person loves you back or not. Sometimes if you even love genuinely, even when the person is not with you anymore, in your heart you know you still love that person. But it's just that nature or circumstances did not make it work out the way you feel or the way you want it to be. I think that's my opinion. Thank you, sir.
So, you mentioned something. Love like Christ loved the church, or loves the church rather, right? Should love be conditional? Should it be based on, he mentioned something, reciprocating the love. Should the amount of love you have for someone be based on what the other person can give to you?
Good morning, everybody. Genuine love should not be conditional. If love is conditional, then it is not really love to me. I think most times we tend to confuse love for temporal affection. Sometimes you might be attracted to somebody not because you really love them, probably because of their physical, mental, or whatever characteristics which you've seen, and you might interpret that as love. And if you do that, our human mind most times would want something in return. To me, that is transactional. But if you really care for somebody, just like he said, sometimes you might really love somebody genuinely, and because we are fallible beings, one thing might lead to another, and the both of you might end up not really being together. That does not mean you do not love that person. It is just probably because things were never meant to work out. But love, in its real sense to me, should not be conditional. If I love you, I should not expect you. Sometimes you love somebody and that person don't really love you in return. It does not mean that that person is a bad person or that person has to love you. But love genuinely should just be as Christ has loved us, with no strings attached.
Please, a round of applause. Okay. Last question on family life. Conflict. It happens everywhere, even at home. Can you tell us what your own idea of conflict and its resolution should be like in a wholesome family?
Okay. So conflict is disagreement when we do not see things the same way. And then it's not, when we see conflict, we should not run away from it. Instead, we should seek understanding. So I'm seeing a color, and I'm saying this is color red. And somebody is seeing another perspective. And one funny thing is that what I'm seeing is correct. But also, we should also see that the other person also is seeing correctly. but it's just that we are coming from different perspective. So when we see conflict arising, it's a question of understanding. So I have to bring in my own definition. This is why I think this is the definition of what I call. So like when you were asking about love, I was now asking, do we have a real definition of what love is? So if my own definition of love is different from what you think love is, then we are already in conflict. We will not align with each other. So when we see conflict, is because it's also a proof of love. It shows that every person is showing his own view, because we are divine. Therefore, every person has a desire. So when I speak forth my desire and you speak up your desires, it shows that every person is trying to show their uniqueness or their abilities. Now, the challenge is where leadership now comes in to help manage the conflict. This is what you agree, this is what I agree. Then he said, okay, for the purpose of family, that's why God now said the man is what? The leader. Purpose of family. He now said he puts the responsibility on the man. Now, being the leader, it talks of foundation. It talks of you are the source, you are the beginning. And that's why we, let's say Africa or generally, we say it is the man that proposes to the woman and says, okay, I want you to come and help me or come and join me. So because of that, you are responsible. So whatever decision we take in after resolving or agreeing that this is our point of view, it's the responsibility of that leader now to take on, that's his, every consequence now comes back to the leader. So even when I do business, whatever decision that may happen, after we finish everything and I make a decision or we take a decision, I bear the risks or I bear the final, so that's where the man stands in. So it's not as if those people, when you don't agree with me, you are wrong completely. It's just that you are not seeing from where I'm seeing. And like we said, people with three decades of different perspective, different upbringing, they believe that this is how it should be done. And then you are coming from a different perspective and saying, no, this is my way. So the whole thing is understanding. And then, like I said, the final consequences comes to the leader. So if maybe your wife gives a good suggestion and maybe you don't agree with it, and you head on, because you are the leader, she will now say, okay, let's go, isn't it? And then you go on and then it falters. Then it has to bounce back to the leader.
Please, a round of applause. Are you married, sir? This elder wants to talk. Who else is married here? I want to hear from another married man's perspective of conflict.
Conflict is a necessity for growth. Two people cannot live together and have a smooth sail. Definitely there must be a conflict. But how you resolve it is very important. For me personally, that's where the communication tool comes in. Let me give an example. My wife tends to see me as if I know everything. So she expects that everything in the family should be in order. So I once sat her down and explained to her, I'm not a magician.
So this course is on the Wholesome Healthy Leader, and we're going to talk about these areas very quickly. I want us to chorus it. Alcohol, is it good for the body? Eh? Some people open Bible now and show me where they say take little. Eh? Abi, am I correct? Is there a place they said take little? Eh? But if people said no. Okay, people are not Christians. Abi? Okay, wine. Okay, there's no alcohol in the wine. Eh. Okay, his own, there's no alcohol. Your own, there's alcohol. Okay, the one in. Every beverage has an alcohol. Are you talking from? What aspect are you talking from? As a professional or as a consumer? As a professional. Can you explain to us just briefly?
Okay, for every beverage, the preservative being used for storage is or contains ethanol. I'm a chemistry student, so I know that. So the only difference is we tend to tag it as alcohol when it has more ethanol content in it. Yes, thank you.
So, as a professional, from professional point of view, any consumer's point of view here? Eh? So, where are we on? Is alcohol good or not? Okay, we'll find out. How about smoking? Eh? It's not good. We all agree. You have a different opinion? Professional point of view and consumer point of view. You want to say something? Okay, briefly, please, so that we can start class.
I think consumption of alcohol depends, because you find out people who make cakes, sometimes they use it for preservative. And yes, and also again, sometimes they use alcohol as a dewormer to kill worms. Yes, but it depends on the content. The content of alcohol you consume, the intake in the bodies matters a lot. Thank you.
So, but you didn't answer. Is it consumer's point of view or professional point of view? Observatory. All right. This and more we will discuss this morning. And in the house this morning, we have a much more professional personality. Someone who has been in the medical line for a long time. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you today Dr. Ben Kagoro. Please, a round of applause for him. Good morning, sir. Please, can we welcome him to ECBI? I think this is his first time appearing, so let's be up on our feet and give him a well-deserving applause. Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the standing ovation. I'll be talking on two topics today. And before I start, I must commend everybody here, sitting here and listening. So somebody rightly pointed out that this is like a therapeutic session. And it's actually, for many, if you know, maybe somebody outside sitting here and listening quietly can be a healing session. So I think it's a good thing. It's part of increasing our mental health and even our psychological health, because the human body, as we'll see, is not only the physical body you see. There are other components that have to work in tandem and unison so that you function effectively. So today I'll be talking about the physical and mental effect of alcohol and smoking in men's health. Also, there is a short talk that we'll give on men's health, prostate health. I'm a surgeon, so that write-up was written by a colleague of mine. He's a urologist, he's a surgeon, so they are experts in that. But I'm not going to technical terms so that everybody gets. So if you see, I mentioned there that it's just a simple analysis. Again, before I go on, somebody talked about alcohol being used as dewormer? Well, in science, there are things we call things that you can prove scientifically and things that are anecdotal. That means it's something that you observe. So if there is any proof of that, I will not discountenance that information. We can subject that to a scientific analysis. But as far as I'm aware of, I've not seen a paper written to support that observation, which is not invalid anyway. So this is how things are discovered. So, as a way of introduction, as I mentioned earlier, the body, human body, is what we see and what is inside and what else that may be there that over time will become. A psychologist once said that we are born 1,000 people, but we end up being to the grave as one person. Because accumulation of the experience we have laterally from the side that eventually make us who we are until the day we leave. So the human body is body, that's what I believe anyway, spirit, and the soul. I'll be concentrating on the body, and my objective today will be to pass information about the human body, the functions of some vital organs. And I'm going to be looking at the mechanism of how this organ works and how damages occur or happens when we take alcohol or cigarette or both. We're going to look at the clinical manifestation briefly and some treatment, prevention, and after that I intend to conclude. The human being has so many structures: our eyes, nose, the skin, everything, our bone, all of shows. But I'll concentrate on the organs that are affected by alcohol and cigarettes. This is one of it. This is an interesting organ. The heart. From the day we were born to the day we die, this structure continually beats. And the interesting thing about this is that most of the time we are unaware of it. Who is aware that his or her heart is beating in this place as we sit? Are you aware? You're not conscious. It's beating. You become aware sometimes when something happens. We'll come to that. But generally, you're not aware. But this organ is functioning. On average, it beats like 3 or 30 million times in a month. 30 million. And it can pump as much as 7,000 to 8,000 liters of blood around your body in a day. If you put it as a pump to pump water, that's how hard this structure works. And for every structure that works this hard, it needs to be maintained. And nature has made it that it is maintained in what we call a physiologic state. So, this is the portion of the heart where blood comes in. This is inferior vena cava. It comes to this portion, which is the aorta and the left side, the right side of the heart, and goes into what we call the ventricle here, that pumps it out to the lungs. From the lungs, it comes back to this side, and it pumps it out through this aorta, and it's distributed. But if you notice, this distributes blood to all structures in the body. Who gives this structure blood? See this small vessel? We'll come to them. These are the coronary vessel. They directly leave the heart and still supply the heart. If anything happens to this vessel, the heart starts having problems. So these are coronary vessels. We'll see the effect of taking alcohol and cigarette on this small vessel that will eventually affect the function of the heart. This is the kidney, cross-section. The kidney is very important. It filters whatever we take and excretes it or releases it in urine. So the heart, one of the organs that we talk about, the liver, kind of works on what we take, takes it to the body uses it, all the waste comes out, and the kidney brings them out of our body. So this
structure, this organ too, has to function optimally for us to be well. And this is the liver. Whenever we eat something, it goes to the intestine and travels by way of portal circulation. It's a specialized blood vessel to the liver. From the liver works on it. If it is toxin, it detoxifies it before it sends it to the body. If it is food, this is where so much action is taken for that food to be safe for the body to take. So this is another very vital, very important structure in our body that helps us to lead a normal life. If it is damaged, there are consequences. In this liver, the ability to clot when we injure ourselves is here. Let's say we injure ourselves for us to, so that we don't bleed ourselves out. The substances that are necessary for that is produced in the liver and sent to the body. If we take poison, it comes to the liver detoxifies it, sends it to the body. If there are organisms, say bacteria, that enters the body, in the liver, they have specialized cells of function that will sieve it and allow only safe material to go to the body. That's why it's attached to the intestine. Then from the intestine, all the blood will now go to the heart. Remember the heart. So this structure, this vessel, see the eye, see, this is coming out. But this vessel, this one, is the one that takes blood to the right side of the heart after it has been dealt with. So this structure is very, very important. See this? This is the bile duct. Very important. If you have slaughtered an animal before, this is a structure that accumulates very important substance and then help us to break down fat. When we take fat, this is what makes it what we call emulsifies it, allows the intestine to take it in and use it. This also has some antibacterial properties in the intestine, in the gut. It allows the intestine to have the normal gut flora. Our intestines have bacteria, but they are normal. They live with us, they work for us. In fact, many of them helps to break down some of those products to the kind of vitamin K that we absorb. And that vitamin K is also important for blood clots. It works in the liver. So they are integrated. A very perfect system that God has created. Now this is the lung. It's important we take air, it goes to the lung, there's a filter in the lung, it goes to what are called alveoli. These are small microstructures in the lung. And when they are plugged up, there are problems. It is from here that air, in form of oxygen now, is exchanged through this vessel and goes back to that heart, the left side that we saw earlier. So this is very important. Here, there are cilia, small finger-like structures that when we breathe in, there are dust, microorganisms that are trapped by them. Very important. If they become too much, we cough. So cough is like a protective, they will cough and bring them out. Or they can trap them and deal with them there. We'll see the effect of some of our action on this as we progress. And some of our action, what I mean, not us, like when we take alcohol and smoke cigarette. So this is a very important structure. And even in the lung, some very important exchange in the system takes place. So we should be aware. I placed this picture to show how we metabolize food. In essence, so this is food. We take it in. It goes into the intestine. The intestine does some digestion, initial digestion, and breaks them into absorbable form. Like if we take carbohydrate, it breaks it down to maybe glucose or fructose. Basically, it breaks it down to glucose. That is how the body can take it in. It goes to the liver. Anything that goes in is filtered. Then it starts distributing that to the other part of the body. Those are a source of energy. If it's protein, it breaks it down basically to some amino acid, maybe long chain or short chain amino acids, and the same process to the liver, and then to the cells, to the heart, and then to the cells. If it is fat, the same process, even though fat has a different way. But basically what happens is that every step requires an energy, form of energy that we've taken already to break it down. And those energies are stored in the liver. Some of those energies are stored in the muscles. We have those innate store already. So that when we need them, they are drawn from there. When we don't need them, they are stored in there. And when we are progressively working, the body is bringing out energy at every point. Bringing out energy at every point. I'm taking this my time to make this very clear so that we understand clearly the effect when we come to the main this thing. So at the cellular level, when it goes to the cell, again, at the cellular level, because we are made up of up to like 30 trillion cells as we are here. We started out as 2 from mommy, from daddy. Then we divided to 4, divided to 16, divided to 32, like that. Right now, an average adult is made up of close to 30-something trillion cells that are continually renewing. Some will die because we are programmed. Some of the cells reach a certain stage that is called programmed cell death. They die. We shut them out. Another one replaces them continually. And that process requires energy. So this energy is stored in this form of ATP. This adenosine triphosphate for somebody that is doing chemistry. So they are stored in the form of ATP and other high energy bonds in the body. We need them to work. I've been working all this time. We need them to produce heat. We need them for growth, especially in a child. We need them for maintenance. So this is the importance of food that we take. And when the body does this, it has the way of maintaining what we call a body homeostasis, how God has made it to be. It's like an all or none law. It doesn't add, it doesn't reduce. How God has made it to be. If for any reason there is a distortion, you see the body starts showing you sign. Distortion, maybe for instance, there's what we call acid-base level. Our body functions at like around 7.2 pH, 7.4 pH normal. But if it goes above that, we say it's alkalotic, maybe more of the alcohol. If it comes below that, it's acidotic, more of acid. So the cells do not function very well at those stages. So the body is continually in a struggle to balance everything. So if we do anything that will like shift this balance, consequences start showing up. So this is ATP. I've said this before. Back to the main issue now, one of the concerns, alcohol. Now, I've taken my time to go through the burden. So it's not going to be only the body that is affected. That worldwide, between 10 to 30% of road traffic accident fatalities and injuries are attributable to alcohol consumption. That is the impact, one of the impact. And you know that psychological impact, economic impact, all these things are from alcohol consumption. How is all this? This is global. In Nigeria, there's a study that was done in Enugu. And up to 30% of household disposable income was spent on alcohol. 30%. Disposable means you've paid your tax, you've done this one, what is left for you to use? 30% on alcohol. And it has been shown that in some places, domestic violence has increased among consumers, or not has, is increased among consumers, disproportionately, consumers of alcohol. And as per workplace, it accounts for a significant proportion of absenteeism from work. And even those that come to work, it diminishes their productivity. So that is these are some of the effects of alcohol consumption. Now, somebody made mention of that most things we take or preservative contains alcohol. Yes, giving and take. Giving, that's true to an extent, but not all. Even the fruits we take is alcohol, contains some alcohol. But these ones are natural alcohol. The body is prepared to take care of that part or type of alcohol because alcohol is a range. I'll show you the structure of alcohol. I think I have it here. Now, the simplest, which he mentioned, is that CH3COH. Alcohol refers to a compound, that is a carbon who has a carbon hydroxyl group. This OH is the hydroxyl group. We say it, the chemistry person is here. attached to a carbon atom. So any compound that has this OH group attached in that way, in a covalent manner, covalent means, let me not go too far, in a covalent manner, is a alcohol. Now this is the simplest. This is methanol, and it's poisonous. If you have another addition of hydrogen in a different way, you have the ethanol. If you have more, you have different stage like this. Even fat. Fat is a alcohol group. This fat we take. But it's natural. That is the way the body deals with it. So what we're discussing today is this part that we consume, which is ethanol. This is the one we're worried about. And let's see how the body handles ethanol. When we take alcohol, it is absorbed immediately, almost immediately. 30% of it in the stomach is taken. The rest goes into the intestine. The same pathway that our normal food follows. It follows that pathway. It goes to the liver. So the liver now tries to detoxify it, right? It struggles just the way it does with other food. But the problem now is when the body tries to break down alcohol, it produces what we call intermediate. If you do intermediate metabolism, there are intermediate products. So it produces intermediate, and one of them is this toxic acetaldehyde. Very toxic. This. And the body has a natural enzyme that it works with other alcohol to deal, it deals with other alcohol. But the byproduct is not that acetaldehyde. When the body uses this, because it doesn't have any other, it uses this alcohol dehydrogenase to work on it, and it produces acetaldehyde. This acetaldehyde is taken to the liver, where the liver tries to convert it to something useful. It actually does. It converts it to acetate. Acetate is a compound that the body can now use. Remember, I said fat. It's like an alcohol, but that is natural. So it's this same process that when we are starving, the body falls on fat at a point. It produces it, it drags on it, and follows this pathway. One of the byproducts of that falling back on fat is the acetate, which the body uses for energy. Am I too technical? Am I too technical? Okay, let me go slowly. What happens is the person takes alcohol. Another person takes meat. Let's say, use that analogy, that has fat. The body is equipped with only certain enzymes. It breaks it down, normal. Converts it to the product that it is used to. As I said, God designed it like that. It cannot be more, cannot be less. But this time around, this other thing, alcohol, the body doesn't have an eye to know that this is alcohol. It just knows chemical structures. So it deals with it the same way. So when it does that, one of the byproducts is this toxin that can destroy cells. Any cells you put it in can destroy it. But the liver want to clear it. Acetate, energy. So which part of the body uses energy? This type of energy. Not all cells. Not all. Maybe like brain, sometimes it can fall back on that. But things like, say, the muscles, other cells, they don't use it very well. Red blood cells, nerve cells, even the brain, all of them are what we call obligate glucose use. They don't do anything apart from glucose. If they finish the glucose in the liver, they will carry the fat and convert it to glucose and use it. If they finish the fat, they will carry the muscle and protein and convert it to glucose and use it. But this one is ready energy that they just use. But what's the problem? There is what we call rate limiting step. In that pathway where this acetate is produced, it's like this door. He just went out of this door alone. What will happen if all of us try to go through this door at once? Exactly. The door is, if it has a monitor, it say, hold on, I only admit one at a time. I cannot admit half at a time. I cannot admit 1.5 at a time. I'm designed to take out only one at a time. So the remaining acetaldehyde will have to wait. So it just takes one, converts it to acetate, go, do whatever you want to do. The remaining one, while they are waiting, they are doing what? Causing more damage. That's the process. While they are waiting, they are causing more harm. And this is upstream. If you go downstream, this acetate, how does the body deal with it? It gives us energy, but the energy is useless. Why? Because when it gives the energy, you use it, it has expended a lot of energy to produce. That energy is giving you back just to get rid of this. So it uses this NADH plus, which I'm sure he knows, consumes a lot of ATPs. So it's like when you go to market with 100 naira, I don't know, you go and buy a commodity of 120 naira because you want it. You've incurred debt, haven't you? So that's just the analogy. So the body ends up wasting a lot of stored useful energy just to eliminate this. And what happens is that because it has deprived the body of this very NADP, right? The body, under other circumstances, will use this NADP to go hold on to fat, to break down fat. Fat sometimes can be very harmful. To break it down, break it down, break it down. But now it has deprived. The body will not do that. The body just leaves the fat, which explains why many people that take alcohol, they have what we call visceral fat. Where? Viscera, not in the arm. Viscera means viscous. It's deposited in the stomach, around the kidney, around the heart. Now, once you start depositing that around the heart, there's problem. That fat, normal fat. Because the alcohol has made the body redundant. It has deprived the body of this NAD plus. So it doesn't bother, doesn't break it down, it leaves it there. So when it's accumulating, especially in those coronary vessels I just talked about, they become narrower. The heart starts crying. I'm not getting enough blood. I'm supplying to other people. I'm not getting enough. So that's where you might have some people that may have a sudden heart attack. This is just going, a sudden heart attack or pain, sharp pain. Those are the telltale signs that something is just not right there. Sharp pain, the heart starts beating very fast. That's when you become aware. Because ordinarily, you're not supposed to be aware that your heart is beating. So you have those palpitations. Those are signs. Do you get it? So they have this visceral fat. When you see many alcoholics that eat, of course, those that eat and take alcohol, you see them big tummy. Those are visceral fats that are deposited there. Autopsy shows that they have a lot of fat clogged up in many of those vital structures, which is harmful. And over time, again, those fat becomes deposited in that vital organ, the liver. So you have fatty liver. All these are 1 step, 2 step, and they don't show up at once. It's gradual. Gradual. The moment you start, an individual rather start exhibiting signs that it has gone very far. It has gone really very far. So alcohol is actually not healthy by all accounts. About the argument of what is in wine, whether small alcohol, little alcohol is good for how does the Bible put it? It's good for the belly or something. We'll see that. So it breaks it down into toxin. And I said, the breakdown is rate limited from the analogy I gave. To put this into perspective, it takes an average of 1 hour for the liver to safely dispose 350 ml of beer. And I think it's 1 bottle. Right? I don't drink, so I don't know the volume in that beer bottle. But I think just 1 beer bottle, it takes an hour for the liver to dispose of the alcohol content in that. So imagine, because it takes that, it's rate limiting, it takes that 1 hour for the body to dispose of that. Imagine somebody sitting down to take 1 carton. So you've exposed your body to that byproduct for a long time. Huh? Do you understand? I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. You've exposed yourself for that length. Just 1 bottle. Then let's say this ABV, alcohol by volume. In wine, if you say you buy wine, it's 12%. It's written there 12% alcohol volume. If you take 148 meals. 148 meals, if you take perspective, this is 750, close to 1 liter. More than, just near 1 liter. But meals, maybe somewhere there. Let's say 200 meals should be somewhere here. Let's say you take this. You've given your body that amount of stress. Just imagine that you are taking it, not one day. See vodka, see the volume for vodka. It's 44 meals. 44 meals is like 20 ml syringe, 2. So this is just to bring this into perspective. Of course, some of the preservative too, rum. It's there to preserve. I don't think somebody will consume that much, a whole cake alone. Because they can use rum to preserve cake. Can use whiskey to preserve cake. And they talk about alcohol being used to cure or treat helminths, worms. As I said, I'm not familiar with that. So this just to give us a perspective that no matter how I look at it, alcohol is not good from every angle. So I placed these pictures to depict the possible areas where the effect of alcohol can be felt. In the brain, it can cause depression. Some people claim that when they take alcohol, it betters their mood. It's true. What it does is that when it goes in, because it has a structure that is both water soluble and fat soluble, it can cross the blood-brain barrier. Naturally, the way God made our brain is that it doesn't allow things to cross anyhow. Whatever comes has to be vetted before it crosses. Vetted inside that is a gate man or gate mechanism. So we have 2 structures that I'm aware of, or 3, that have that setup. So it's protected. The brain, and maybe the testis in the male, and some other structures. These don't allow anything to cross easily. But alcohol can just permeate because it has the property both ways. It enters everywhere. So what it does is that it blocks some receptors that are responsible for stress. So we feel elated for the period. And we feel, we're okay. However, it has been found that after that effect is usually immediate. It doesn't last. So in the brain overall, anxiety, depression has been found. Memory loss, very common among chronic alcoholic. Stroke is one other thing that can occur from that. Then breast cancer has been found. Blood pressure increase. It's not difficult to deduce why. Because if it is clogging the blood vessel, the heart works more. If you measure it, the blood pressure goes up. Liver damage, you can have alcoholic liver, which I said. With time, they have what we call liver cirrhosis, because it doesn't give the liver is a structure, amazing structure that God has created. We can cut the liver. That's how we do liver transplant. You can cut it, give to another person, it will grow. That's one structure that is still amazing in the body. You can actually physically cut the liver. Give it time, it will regenerate. You can give it to another person. So if we insult the liver has a very good capacity to recover. However, if it becomes chronic with alcohol, gradually it becomes damaged. So it heals by what we call fibrosis, like if I have a scar. So it doesn't function as it should. So over time, it heals by that and then develop liver cirrhosis. And that way, those functions I mentioned, like blood clot, the removal of toxins, things like, what else? Even glucose that is stored there, you don't have it again. This can lead the person to have jaundice because it's not clearing the bile, that bile, this thing that I showed you earlier. So many things can occur. And if it persists, it can lead to cancer because it is trying to heal itself. When you subject the human cells to the process of insult, healing, insult, healing, at a point it makes mistake. The what we call mutation that can occur. Once that mutation of one cell happens, it loses, it sheds itself of the ability to be controlled. So gradually, just one cell, cancers, all cancers happen from one cell. One error that was not controlled. So it grows and grows and eventually becomes cancerous. We can't do much about that when we find that. So these are other things, bowel cancer and the rest. So one way or the other, it's not useful. It's not healthy. Because we're talking about men, we will not include this. If it's a woman and she's pregnant, it has negative impact on the baby. So how do we prevent? Don't start in the first place. Don't start. So there are programs where you admit yourself, like it's like a session like this, where alcoholics come together and they have this therapy that helps. There are medical and psychological therapy too that are available, but that is an institution. If changing your environment, changing your friends, changing things around you help, I think it goes a long way. Of course, and other measures, spiritual. You can go spiritual, it helps also. All right, I've said this before, it's just a continuation from what I've just finished talking about. All right. I hope I have not confused some of us. Thank you. Should I continue? All right. So, as a continuum, this is cigarette. I tagged it as the most non-nutritious thing a human being can put in his or her body. It has zero nutritional value. Zero. In fact, I don't know the psychology of people that smoke and smoke. We'll see the effect. I showed us the picture of the lung. When we breathe, every day we breathe. The exchange of air here. In this air, science says there is oxygen, there's carbon dioxide, there's nitrogen, there may be helium, there may be other gases. But what we use is oxygen. And the mechanism of that is amazing, beautiful. And it happens in the lungs. Beautiful. The anatomy of the lung is, we have nostrils too, that direct air into the pharynx, what we call the airway, that connects to the mouth. Our nose actually is connected to the mouth. So there the air becomes warm, and we humidify it. That way it will not irritate our throat. That's the mechanism. Beautiful, isn't it? How God created that, I don't know. If you don't believe me, try inhaling dry oxygen. You see that you'll be coughing. So, and there are cells there that affect that. As we go down, the trachea, the voice box, I'm talking now, is air vibrating there. Vibrating between chords. If I vary the strength of the chord, I can have a high pitch, a low pitch, all those things. Anatomy. As we go further down, we have the bronchioles, where air is always there. There's respiration, but it's not efficient. It's not the usual. Air is always there in that air. Within that, there are cilia. If we go, they become smaller and smaller. And there are cilia, like in our intestine. They are wobbling, looking for things every time. In some children that are born without it, they tend to have autoimmune disease. They tend to prone to infection. We call it in children like it's a syndrome, Katajana syndrome, where they are born with genetic defect that does not allow those cilia to be moving. But we have it. But cigarette smoke damages them. So we are prone to having an infection because we breathe air, a lot of bacteria are there. If it goes in, we have pneumonia. So God designed this thing with intention. And there is no engineer like God. So let's look at the burden. Globally, it's been estimated that about 6 billion, I didn't put the amount, $6 billion in money into cigarettes, like smoking. That's how much people lose. And per death, 27,000 people die from conditions that may be directly attributable to cigarette smoking per year. So the burden is marked. Cigarette, the smoke, contains over 5,000 chemical compounds. 5,000. And the process of smoking produces heat, it generates fume, and has zero nutritional value. So that heat can cause repeated insults to the airway. As I said, it heals, it tries to heal. It heats up, injures, tries to heal. That alternating process of the body struggling to heal itself, because the body is dynamic. If you get a cut here, that moment you get a cut, the body is instituting measures to heal that wound. So every insult we give, at the moment of that insult, the body is trying to. So if you don't give the body time to heal, it's healing, you are stripping. It's healing, you are stripping. The process of trying to do that, there will be an error. The body, as I said, we have trillions of cells that die every day. Programmed cell death. It's replaced naturally. Sometimes when you reach the age, it just says, my time is up. It just goes. Another one is coming. So the process is disrupted. So that since you are producing, you don't overproduce, you don't underproduce. There is a guard system that God has placed. If you do it too much, like in a computer, if you keep pumping information, the computer just shuts. So that is just something similar. So it doesn't give us any value. The tar content, there's tar. That's what may be responsible for the hyperpigmentation of the lips and the hands of some individuals that take alcohol. It also coats the teeth and the gum dark. So the heat from the noxious chemical, the heat from the cigarette causes damage to nerve ending. Smokes, it goes in. So there are very sensitive nerve ending in the nose and the roof of the mouth, responsible for taste and perception of smell. When an individual smokes, that pathway is affected. So many of them have complaint of anosmia. Anosmia is loss or reduced ability to perceive odor. In many smokers, it's a common phenomenon. So as I said, it damages the cilia and makes the individual prone to infection. The alveoli, I showed where the alveoli, that part I showed that is microscopic, that is like a balloon. Those tar, they go in and plug it. So that very fine, beautiful exchange of oxygen is affected. So the individual is almost always under stress because the body responds that, there's no enough oxygen. Something is happening. So it sends a signal. Either the person is breathing too fast, most times you see them, or the heart is beating too fast. Because the body interprets it that I don't have enough blood or oxygen going on. How do I respond? Breathe faster. Or heart, pump faster so that you take blood. Because the cells tells the brain, we are not getting enough. So those ones just put the system under unnecessary stress. Just from smoking. Apart from that, when it goes to the lining, goes to the blood, what it does is that it affects the blood vessels. It makes them going to have vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction means they react by becoming smaller. Remember the coronary artery of the heart. If it happens there, once it becomes smaller, the heart starts complaining. The cells, I'm not having enough. So it sends signals. It starts beating very fast. And the individual, once it's beating very fast, that's what we call ischemia. Because it's so narrow, it's not getting in. It's beating too fast. That area of the heart becomes deprived of blood, becomes ischemic. So it heals by scar formation later. Because when there's no blood, there's eventual cell death. There's some healing. that heals by developing of that scar. So once a scar is there, that heart that is supposed to be pumping normally may pump with one side, pump with something. It's not normal again. Because that portion is not normal muscle that is formed just from smoking. That portion is not normal. So you have what we call this cardiomyopathy, dilating of the heart from that. So, well, this is just a depiction. Most times, pathology, this is pathological lung. This is how it looks. The specimens are gotten from autopsies. This is how it looks, and this is how a normal lung is supposed to look like. It's a spongy tissue, not as smooth as this, if you see it in a living person. This is just one. So, I've said this before, erectile dysfunction in men, again, is due to its effect on blood vessel. The erection in men is, the mechanism is blood. Blood is directed through some pudendal vessels to the perineum and then descends the male organ. So it's erection. So it's blood that does that. So when there is compromise of the vessels, the feeding vessels, it's going to be affected. So we have erectile dysfunction. I've discussed the mechanism of the cardiovascular dysfunction already. How it causes damage. I've said this, vasoconstriction. I don't know if that one was clear. Vasoconstriction means the vessel contracts, relaxes, contracts, relaxes, which is not supposed to be. So, and then one other way, remember I said something about the ability of the body to repair itself. In the cell, there's a part called that has a nucleus. Within the nucleus, there's a DNA. Once that DNA is damaged, the DNA contains our information, how we are made, how our fingers are supposed to be, when a particular cell is supposed to die off. So many information. There are some epigenetic informations too, apart from those ones that are with the DNA. But basically, if something happens to that DNA, the ability for the body to repair itself is lost. So once it's lost, we call it, because it's not going to die off, it may produce a clone of what was supposed to be. That clone is said to have undergone a mutation. It's a cell. You look at it, it's a cell, but it's not behaving, it's not responding to the normal control of the other normal cells. So that mutation can result in many things. In children, mutation results in congenital anomalies. Children are born with defects. Hand not complete, eye has issue, leg, some are born even with the anus not open. These are congenital. But in adults that have already been, has developed, if I use that term, when the mutation occurs, usually it's just one pathway. Cancer, if it is not taken care of, just from smoke. The challenge is that you cannot predict who develops that because our genetic makeup are different for a purpose, for a reason of survival. Science says by evolution, we evolved to survive. So we may have evolved in different ways. Our weaknesses in gene is kept aside. It's only our strength that is brought out. So it's only our strength that is brought out at the genetic level. And that may, let me just digress, that may be why consanguineous marriages are strongly discouraged, because when that happens, the offspring tend to have the defect, the weakness of that individual made manifest. But if there is marriage from different tribes, different places like that, it's most of the time, it is the strength of that gene, the strong gene that tends to come out. So the individual tends to come out better. That's just by the way. So for the DNA, it loses the ability to do that. As I mentioned earlier, because of the effect, cancers may occur in the mouth. If you notice, these are the pathway with the person that is smoking. The person that smokes, it takes it from the mouth, the nose, the throat. The sinuses, that's where the alveoli are. Before the alveoli, the sinuses. The lungs, the blood, the kidney, the bladder, the liver, pancreas, all can develop cancer. Somebody may ask, cancer, everybody, people can develop cancer too now, but scientists have sat down to analyze it. Say, if somebody smokes, you put another person that doesn't smoke, what is the risk of the two in the population developing cancer? And it has been estimated that it's 15 to 30 times. The individual that smokes has a 15 to 30 times more risk compared to the individual that doesn't smoke. Because cancer can occur. But why increase the can occur in normal population? But why increase the risks? I don't know if I'm passing a message. So, alcohol does not benefit anyone. What happens when an individual stops smoking? The benefit can be dramatic, almost instantly. The damaged mucosal lining and the cilia I mentioned earlier, they regain viability within weeks. Within weeks, they regain viability. They grow. So since nothing is coming to destroy them, they recover. Then the risk of heart disease falls to half within 1 year. Just by when you stop smoking, that risk for you that like 10 and 15 times, it falls to half within 1 year. And cancer risk within 19 years of lung cancer falls by 50%. That is, another half. So if the person doesn't smoke, coronary heart disease, that risk also comes down gradually to around 15 years. It flattens out because it starts from up and starts coming down if you check a graph. And flattens and remains like that of a normal person after 15 years. It's not that it waits till 15 years. It keeps going down until that time. Becomes like a normal person. So there's immense benefit in not even smoking at all. And when you stop, such reversal can occur. As I said, the body is dynamic. It is always trying to recover. Always trying to recover from whatever damage that an individual or our action may have caused. So to stop smoking, there are medications that will help. Counseling, just like alcohol, and then a change of environment. The measures are almost the same thing. So in conclusion, the effect of alcohol and cigarette smoking is on the whole harmful. It's on the whole harmful. And if given enough time, it can be fatal. If we continue in that habit, it confers no scientifically proven benefits. And as per the society, it has a negative psychosocial outcome and a significant drain on the resources of the household and the community. So by all accounts, cigarette smoking and alcohol consumption is not helpful to the human being, and much more so, if I should add, to the man. Thank you very much. Room for questions.
Questions before he goes for the next one. Anybody? No questions? Okay.
Well, as I said, maybe I've succeeded in confusing everybody here, which is not my intention at all.
Thank you, sir. So there's something that you did not mention. I'm concerned about it because I do have an uncle who smokes like 2 packs a day. And the question of just telling him, this thing is killing you does not help, because he will tell you that he's a lot older than you are, and that you will be lucky if you get as old as he is. And so, but sometimes when we do make progress, even with other persons, what usually comes up next is something that I don't think you pointed out, which I would like if you would comment on, this addictive nature of smoking. That they begin to have, I know you said the positive impacts are almost immediate, but at the same time, somebody once told me that if they don't smoke in a day, they have the same effects that I would have if my head was banged on the wall. And that they suffer very, very serious mental and physical. In fact, I see him physically begin to sweat out if he has not spoken before the evening. So what do I tell somebody like that? Because it's almost like I'm telling him, punish yourself or die, by telling him to not smoke. Thank you.
Thank you for that very important question. Cigarette is addictive because of the nicotine content, apart from the other things, but it is addictive. So what it does is that it goes to the brain, it sets it. There's this chemical that we call reward chemical, dopamine. It makes it to come out a lot. So it's actually addictive because of that nicotine content. So maybe I didn't point that out. But like alcohol, to an extent, it can be difficult to stop, because what he's exhibiting is more of a withdrawal syndrome. A withdrawal, because if they don't get it, that dopamine drive, that dopamine effect is craved for. In fact, so much that some of them can physically attack somebody to get it. But the thing is, if that person is isolated, that is why the programs are there. If you isolate that individual for 12 hours, just 12 hours, you notice that sweating, that aggression starts coming down. 24 hours, by 72 hours, it's over. 3 days. If that person can stay away for that length of time, just 3 days, that craving, it's gone. But what you do in between to mitigate or reduce that, because you can't stop the body from doing that. That's where this program comes in. I'm not an expert, but I believe they have nicotine gum, that they can give the individual to chew, so that sensation of putting cigarette in the mouth is gone first of all, but he has the nicotine, but gradually he goes away. So their habit, first of all, the habit of smoke, they come together, not only the nicotine, that motion of bringing cigarette to the mouth, that one you've taken it away by giving the gum, just giving only nicotine, and then the other harmful chemicals, it's just nicotine you're giving this time. You're taking care of it through the gum, and then with time, they tend to overcome. It's challenging. That's why there is a point I said, in both alcohol addiction and cigarette addiction, it has to be the individual that checks himself into the facility, because maybe the individual now realizes that this thing is not helping. But if it's people that forces that person there, no, it's not likely going to help. The person is likely going to go back. So this advocacy, this education, every time the individual will want to sit and see. And as per what you said about him smoking for a long time and nothing has happened, it's possible. But I always give this analogy. Two people are not the same. I said something about our genetic makeup is different. There are some individuals that have this enzyme, alcohol dehydrogenase, plenty in their system. You understand? So they take the alcohol, and you see that many of them, they have a way of dealing with it. But there are many that do not have enough. In fact, some people have deficient alcohol dehydrogenase. When they take alcohol, the behavior they exhibit, you notice that no, this thing doesn't fit him. Have you seen that before? So that is the biological explanation for that. So maybe he has something. In science, when we are making derivation inferences, we don't say this is absolute. There is what we call the Gaussian curve. It's a graph that goes like a bow, an arc. So when we're talking about science, we are talking, and when you divide it into two, the middle, we are talking about the tendency towards coming to the middle for most individuals, because all our population, if we have 100,000 people, or 1 million, or 100 million in Nigeria, we want to look for the majority of them. How is this thing panning out? How is it coming out? So when you plot the graph, that Gaussian curve, they tend to come towards the middle. That's where we discuss. It doesn't mean that the outliers, those ones by the side, do not exist. There are some that will extremely react to this thing, and then there's some that will not react at all. So those ones do exist. So your uncle may be somebody that has not started exhibiting some of these things we found yet because of his makeup. But if he continues long enough, I think scientifically something will have started happening already in his system. But the issue now is if he comes to the realization that it's harmful to him. Because both ways, if you look at it, it's not beneficial. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Really appreciate it. Mine is, okay, still in regards to smoking. I looked it up, but I will really appreciate you give us more insight into it. The effect of smoke as a result of using firewood or charcoal in households. How does it actually affect the system? Does it work with someone that consumes smokes cigarettes, or it's actually very different? We just need, more insight in regards to that, and then possible ways of how to mitigate.
No, let me get your question.
Okay.
Clear.
The effect of having or consuming smoke as a result of using firewood in the home. Firewood tends to, the smoke and all that. So people or human beings tend to consume that. You inhale it, either passing and all that. I looked it up online. It has effects, but then I want you to give us like an insight from a health perspective or from a professional perspective.
Thank you. If I've not answered, if I've not addressed your concern by the time I'm done, you can still ask me. So your question is for firewood use or charcoal use or all these things. For charcoal or firewood use, it's not something that the individual is deliberately doing, right? And I don't think anybody will put charcoal or firewood in a confined space and stay inside. No. So it happens that we can inhale, just like we inhale dust, we inhale fume from cars as they're going, we inhale them. So those things do happen. But the difference here is that in that firewood, there is no nicotine. That addictive content that makes you crave to go back and go and do. And then there's that direct heat that comes from that will cause that harm. It's not there. So what that other fire and smoke does is that with time, because it's carbon, when we burn, it's carbon. Just like when you burn fuel or diesel, it's carbon in the air. So you have air pollution. When you inhale, with time, those alveoli that you saw, gradually with time, those carbon will become deposited with time. if that individual, say, works in a place where they perpetually use firewood every time. So with time, that carbon will be there. But the effect on the cilia that I said may not be there because it's not direct, it's not deliberate. You understand? So it will be deposited there with time, and then the individual will now be disposed to series of prone to respiratory tract infection. Because when they are deposited, the usual thing is that the airway secretes mucus. So it holds and then comes out. Either you spit it out or somehow in children they swallow it. Those are protective. So because it is plugged, right? With time it becomes plugged. The distal portion, the farthest one, let me not use my medical term, is blocked. But it is still producing mucus. It's still producing what it's producing, so it becomes blocked. So bacteria propagate in where it's not being cleared. Anywhere you have a stasis, bacteria will just start growing there. So that individual is prone to developing respiratory tract infection, pneumonia. And also, not only firewood, say dust. Some people work as miners. Some people work in those days where they used to do this roofing, this thing, asbestos. So the dust from that over time, they're inhaling it. Long after they've retired, the effect of that asbestosis can predispose the individual to developing some form of lung cancers. So it's the same pathway. The difference now is that in this firewood smoke, you may have tar, you may have carbon, but that addictive nicotine is not there, and it's deliberate. The cigarette company deliberately put nicotine for the addiction because they want to sell. But the side effect is those 5,000 chemicals, and the effect that it's just marketing. Thank you.
So I have my own question, sir. The nicotine itself, does it have any, like you said, maybe when the person tries to stop and checks himself into a facility, they give him the nicotine gum. The nicotine in that gum, does it have any kind of health benefit at all?
No. Nicotine is a compound. You remember I said there's something like NAD, nicotinamide, and nucleotide. Those things are the body uses them. So, but the body has the way of generating its own. So the health benefits of that nicotine, no, it's just the addiction. It goes to the brain, the effect in the brain. That dopamine. Because one way or the other, we are human beings. If there is anything that makes you bring out that dopamine in good value, you feel really good. That's the truth. Maybe sky, people that climb plane and jump, they don't take alcohol, though. They don't take, it's that same chemical. The thrill, people that climb mountains and dive, the thrill. So there is no, per se, health, like, how can I put it, health benefit of having that nicotine in the gum. The essence is to reduce that with time. The concentration is measured to reduce that craving, because you have to taper the process. You don't just stop at once. It's like if I'm used to taking 10, for instance, I'm talking about dose, for instance, then now you bring it down to 7. Then my mind is okay, 7, fine. Then next time it's now like 2. By the time it gets to 2, the body is saying, I can do without this. But all of it is in the mind. Actually, the body can do without it completely. But because the mind has been set that this is what I want, this is what I need for now, you have to take time to persuade the body that no, you actually do not need this. So that's the process that has been discovered, that if you follow this regimen, you eventually win the individual off dependency on nicotine. So the word is winning off. Not that it has any described health benefit for giving that gum. I hope I've answered your question.
All right. When it comes, I'm talking about substance abuse. You see, what of these people that take their own in the nose, and then it's like I'm getting some bricks on it. So you see them taking it, and then those who inject their own, is it just the feeling that they want to get? What is that? Because we talk of nicotine, the thing that they are taking, is it the nicotine that they are taking?
Yes, it has. If I understand that's not very well, I don't take it, but it has. So that is what makes them go back. It's commercial. It's money. There's nothing benefit. That's what makes them. If they take that nicotine out, people will not take cigarette. You know? Because if I smoke, hey, what am I getting? I didn't get any feeling. What will make me go back again? He or she is going back for that feeling. So whether you take it through the nose or through the lung or it's the same thing. Substance abuse is great. Maybe the person started with cigarettes, then he or she's not getting high enough. Initially it was fine. Then the person started looking for the next thing that will make him have that feeling. This one is not enough, or it's too short-lived. Let me get the one that will make me get that feeling and stay there longer. That's how they keep going. They keep going. Just for that feeling and the duration. Nothing else. So, all around such individual, the world is going on, everything is going on for their own. They are living in their own world. And they don't want, that's for those that are going very far, they don't want anything that will disturb that balance to take them back, take them out. Because the feeling they get from that supersedes any other thing you're likely telling them that you think they can benefit. Like somebody just mentioned that sometimes a child may not know what is good for that child. But you as an adult, you're looking at it from a different perspective. You made something about perspective. So you're looking, but their perspective is narrowed, is different from your own. So what we're doing every day, the discussion, all these things are helpful. That's why they don't just treat, like say you treat malaria. You have to isolate them, put them in the center, and then gradually work on the body, work on the spirit or mind and soul gradually, because they are there. Physically, the body is damaged. It will only be damaged. Mentally, the person is addicted to that thing. That's what the person wants. And then overall, if we consider ourselves as normal, we look at that individual as eccentric.
Any more questions? Okay. So you can continue in the absence of.
The other slide, is it here? Okay. This is not my write-up, so I deliberately left the author, his name there. He's Dr. Nabasu Lemek. He's a consultant urological surgeon with NISA Premier Hospital in Abuja. So I think the information from him will greatly benefit us. So I will, with the knowledge I have, attempt to give you this talk in a simple way, as simple as possible. So what is prostate cancer? We're going to look at the burden as we did in the other talk. We're going to find out what is this prostate gland. It's a gland that is in men. What is it? What does the prostate do in the body? What are the risk factors for developing prostate cancer? Because when we're talking about prostate health, basically it's prostate cancer. The prostate can have other issues, infections, become enlarged, all those things. But those ones can be taken care of. This one is the fatal one. prostate cancer. So what are the symptoms of prostate cancer? Do we have screening? What do we do to prevent? For those that have it, we are going to attempt to look at this stage. I will not go too technical. And then we look at the treatment options and conclude. So, prostate cancer is a malignant transformation, malignant growth arising from the prostate gland. Let me pause here so that I can explain what malignancy is. Remember I told you about mutation. And I told you about that single cell that for some reason becomes a deviant. It doesn't respond to the body's command like the others. And that cell divides continually and does not behave like the other cells. That cell is now a cancer. Malignant means it has now become aggressive. It's now spreading. So that's just it. So prostate cancer is malignant growth arising from the prostate gland, and the prostate gland is found only in men. Worldwide, the prostate cancer is the first commonest cancer. If you put all cancers, lungs, renal, everything, if you put them and rank them, which one is number 1, number 2? Prostate cancer is number 4 of all cancers, whether in male or female. If you now take out only men, it is number 2. So you see, its position is not that far down. And it is the leading cancer in men in terms of when it is found and in terms of cause of death, mortality. So most men in this environment present with advanced disease that is incurable. That is the essence of and one of the essence of this discussion today is to make sure that we have information that we can use or we can pass across so that we don't fall among these most men. So this is statistics. This is a depiction of the prostate gland. This is a cross section. This is a drawing. It's like a human being that was sliced sagittal, like this, and then we are looking from inside. So, sorry. So the prostate gland is located around there, just after the bladder. Bladder is where we store urine. Seminal vesicle, the secretion from this is stored here. And then from here, the testes, this one goes into the seminal vesicle. The sperm cells, they come here and meet the secretion of the prostate that form the semen, 70%. And then it travels here and comes out. So this is the gland we are discussing. This is a close-up view of that gland. It's bilobed, 2-lobe, most of the time, or 3-lobe with a median lobe. Let me not bore you with that. Just know that it has 2 parts with a small middle part. So this is the gland. So it's a pear shape or walnut. We don't have that. It's like pear, the way you know pear in our environment. Yeah? The pear, that's about the shape of the eye. It's located below the bladder. It produces semen, and it functions as a lubricant, and then, of course, it can help to neutralize the acidity in the female genital tract, which is important for the sperm cells to survive and then migrate. So, the risk factors for prostate cancer can be largely broadened into modifiable and non-modifiable. That is something you can do something about, and then another said that you cannot do anything about. So the ones you can not do anything about is this one. Race, black. You didn't choose our race, did we? No. So there is nothing we can do. If science say, okay, this one, you can't say, no, I don't want to be a black man again. We didn't choose that, so it's not modifiable. Family history is not modifiable. That one, somebody is born, and then there is a risk in the family. Then age, we cannot stop growing old. That one is not modifiable. It has been found that a good proportion, about 63% of prostate cancer happen in men between the age of 63 or 65 and above. So these are factors that we cannot modify. The modifiable factors are those ones we talked about. Environmental, cigarette, alcohol, toxins that we expose ourselves to. Those ones are modifiable because we can shield ourselves from that. We can do something about them. Right? So how do they present? Certain is most don't have symptoms. You can't see a man, even if he's 65, and they come and say, this one is prostate cancer. Because the prostate can have symptoms far remote from what is what can be caused by the prostate cancer. You can have a BPH, what we call benign prostatic hyperplasia. That is, that gland I showed you can become very large, but it's not cancer. So it becomes very large. That passage you saw, let's see. If it becomes very large, this passage, this is where it comes, this is where we pee from. It becomes very large, becomes narrow. So peeing for many men becomes troublesome. They can feel like, do you want to go and pee? They run there. Go and stand. It won't come. They will stand there and wait. Then it starts coming. They feel relief. If he wants to push, I want to finish this thing, he stops. When he's done, the thing will be wetting, or he wants to go back. I feel like, I've not finished this thing inside here. Those are like telltale that, okay, the gland may be enlarged or it may be cancer. Many glands too do not get enlarged, but they have cancer. They develop cancer. So they are non-specific. So when the disease spreads, it spreads to other parts of the body. It can be local or it can be systemic. So, and usually it's when it's late. Sometimes you may see blood in urine, which is not specific anyway. A man can see blood in urine, which can be an issue with the bladder, or it can be from the prostate also. So, but if it becomes advanced, what I mean is, it is there, the individual do not know, but certain things start showing up, like back pain, loss of appetite. In extreme cases, the individual will not be able to move the lower limbs. You sit down. Because the nearest point that this cancer spreads to, among the nearest anyway, is the spine. It just from there, it just goes back. And from that back, that's where our nerves comes out to supply the leg that we move. So when they collapse, the individual maybe wants to move, you have this spasm. The leg will be, can't move, can't walk. It has gone far. That one usually, we just do palliative. That's little one can do about that condition. So it has gone very far. So, the urologists, they are doctors that have gone through medical school and have returned and have gone to train as surgeons and have specialized in the male reproductive tract and the kidneys. We call them urologists. So these are experts. This is their job. When you go to the hospital, they don't see any other patients. They just see these sets of patients that have issue with these structures that I just outlined in male. Their patients are literally male. Majority anyway, male. So this is the prostate. As I just said, this is the bladder. It's just sitting there. One way to check is when we start getting towards this age of 63, 65, no problem. We'll do what is called screening. They say 3 monthly or yearly. Go present ourselves. I heard about this thing. No, I came to check. So what the doctor may do, the simplest clinical thing that the doctor will do is say, okay, let me check. So what he does is that he positions you, the man, on the examination couch and sticks his finger to the rectum. This is where we pull from, into the rectum. So it's indirect way of checking it. It's sitting there. So if you put the finger, there's a way we feel it. We know the normal. We know the abnormal. So when we start feeling, this thing is not normal, then we go to the next step. Okay, what we checked is not looking normal, but I can't see or not see. So we go to the next step. This PSA. It's a prostate-specific antigen test. This is a substance or a hormone or enzyme, rather, that is produced by this gland, majorly. Of course, it can be produced in other places, even around the bladder, but majorly is this gland. So we've detected that value of between 0, I think, to 4 gram per DL is normal, but if it's above that, there's something wrong. So you start questioning that. But if it's above that, there's a range the urologists give. Because anytime this gland is sick, this test goes up. So you cannot say definitely that, I've done rectal examination, I found something suspicious, I've done PSA, it's elevated, that definitely is cancer. No. It just gives a range. So over time, data has been gathered, and it's found that if the range is 10 and above, it's likely. So we'll go to the next one. We do this, a biopsy. What they do is to go through here and stick a needle at different lobes, because what we are seeing now is half, at different points. Take samples under anesthesia. The individual will not feel pain anyway. Take samples, take it to the lab. Yeah, the individual, for this test, they do it, they inject it so that it can be painful. So the individual is not supposed to feel that pain. So they inject, it's a very fine, specially designed needle that we take tissues from there and send it for laboratory analysis. It's that analysis that will say for sure this is cancer. However, in places where they recognize that this thing is a killer, in men over 65, they go a step ahead, MRI. In our environment, it's an expensive test to do because it has this quality of detecting it early. The MRI. It's a radiologic test where they use electromagnetic properties to change some field and bring out an image. So it helps to identify any suspicious lesion here very early in this. So these are some of the measures that have been put in place to detect cancer of the prostate early. I discussed these causes of high PSA, prostate-specific antigen. It's an antigen in the body. Cancer is one. Benign prostatic hyperplasia, the description I just gave, is one. When it's enlarged, when this gland becomes large, there's a volume we use. Then prostatitis, when it becomes infected. It is when there's infection, bacterial infection, becomes swollen, painful. When the individual is peeing, micturating, is painful. So those conditions, even with age, if you take the sample shortly after ejaculation, for most men, whether the individual is 65 or younger, the PSA is high. If for any reason there's a retention is when this area from here, this is where we pee from, back. If there's any blockage, let's say some people may have strictures. Strictures are narrowing of this pathway where we pee from a previous infection. Let's say gonorrhea that was not well treated. When there's blockage, so urine doesn't flow out very well, for instance, you measure the PSA in that individual will be high. Or sometimes this gland can be large. As I mentioned in BPH, urine is here. And this urine, this bag becomes very dilated, ballooned out, and can be very uncomfortable and painful. if you take the PSA for that individual at that time, it's going to be elevated. So these are pointers. So before we say, okay, PSA is high, we have to say, okay, it is not prostatitis, it is not say bladder outlet obstruction, it is not from stasis, it is not from prostatitis, it's not because this individual is old, it wasn't taken immediately after ejaculation. So once we rule that out, say, okay, it is a pointer, not a diagnosis, that this individual may have prostate and cancer. This is the staging. I will not bore you much, but for importance, when we go, or when the patient goes to see them, they stage the cancer. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1 is usually picked using that MRI. This one. So you get it very early. The stage 2, stage 3 is difficult to pick. It's a bit advanced. You can pick it, of course, with the MRI. But stage 3, stage 4, of course, that's when we do the DRE. Problem is, when it is stage 3, stage 4, it's advanced. When you do the digital rectal examination, you find it, and then you infer like it's a stage 3 or stage 4. That thing has gone very far. So the treatment for early disease, that is for those that were found by routine screening, the stage 1, or maybe some stage 2. What is done for them, it depends on the facility and center. It's a prostatectomy. Prostatectomy is a surgical procedure where this gland, the prostate, is removed completely. So it's removed completely. It has its own complications. The most common is retrograde ejaculation, because where the male ejaculate is seated around there. When it is removed, if it comes out, instead of coming straight down, it can go back to the bladder. That's one complication that procedure may have. So the treatment for early disease is prostatectomy, and it's radical. Radical in the sense that everything is taken, unlike in BPH, where we just take out a core. BPH is benign prostatic hyperplasia. When it's swollen, we just take out a core inside and leave the rest. But for cancer, everything is taken out, radical. And sometimes when the nerves are involved, it has its own thing, its own drawbacks too. So they invented, or they developed another type. They call it Welsh procedure. Who knows Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon? So he has had it. He has had that radical prostatectomy because he kept checking. And he was privileged that the person that invented it was still alive that time, that did the procedure for him. So the other one is radiotherapy, which can be done for early disease. For late disease, however, which is common in our environment, what we do is kind of palliative. Palliative means just make the individual's life as comfortable as possible while you wait. For short, there's nothing that you can medically do for another individual in our environment now when they come late. So there are different medications. So one common protocol we use, or they use, is they will castrate the individual. Yes. Why? That's the question. Because the tumor feeds on the product of the testis, which is the testosterone, the male hormone. That's what feeds it. Take that away, you have a chance of halting the progress, because you've taken away some of its vital source of growth. So it can be achieved by chemical castration. You said, hey, because you can give something that will block. That's chemical castration. Or you can do that by physically taking away the testis. Physically taking away the testis. And actually that one in our environment is cheaper, because the individual doesn't have to buy expensive medication. The chemical castration is very expensive. Individual can spend as much as $1 million every month to stay alive. So that's now. Then it used to be like 500,000, 400,000, but now I'm sure it's like $1 million to stay alive every month because it's a monthly injection that we give. So what it does is still block that pathway. So prevention is early detection, and then you treat. The early detection we've discussed already, where things work. They do this screening. In the West, they used to make it mandatory, but they sat down and studied that we're making this thing mandatory, it's costing money. We will not force anybody, but they do what we're doing now. They do enlightenment. They talk so that individuals now present themselves for check, especially if you have those non-modifiable factors: the black race, family history, and age. Present yourself for that screening. So the chance of developing an advanced disease, if it is there, is greatly reduced. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Gentlemen, it's time for questions. People have heard something is threatening our existence. Oh yeah, questions. My own questions are, how, when should we start checking?
How? The doctor will do that. When? By the time you reach that risk age, from 60. That is the when. You start checking. But if you notice, that's for cancer. But for BPH, some men start exhibiting the symptoms when they're in their 40s. BPH is just enlargement. That when the individual go to pee, it's not like before. You cannot push it the way you used to push it very far, or you stand for a long time to empty the bladder, all those things. Around 40, 45, some. Or 50 above, they start having that because it's getting large for all male. Some can get large and nothing will happen. It can pee, but for some, it becomes large and start causing some impedance to flow of urine. But for what we're discussing, the cancer, from 60, 63, 65, it's a good practice to start visiting the urologist to check. So that is the when. How? I've discussed the how. The way the urologist does it is that, first of all, you talk, ask you some question. He already knows you're a black person, of course, but he's going to ask you if there's any family history of something similar. Yeah. And then he may ask you to undress, lie on the couch, position in a certain way, glove finger, KY jelly, lubricate finger, and put it through the rectum, because that is the closest anatomical access point to that. We can't get to it directly except through the urethra. Of course, we can't do that. You can get to the rectum and feel it. Said we know the normal prostate. We know the normal average. Of course, that is subjective, but generally, if you've been doing it, you know, okay, this one is normal. If there's any suspicion, then it takes you to the next step. Or sometimes, if you have a family history of prostate, he may just ask you to go and do PSA. But if there's no family history and you're worried, part of the screening is he does the DRE, send you for a PSA check. Of course, he's going to ask you some questions, that I said, when you go and pee, any problem, just to rule out BPH, any fever, when you're urinating, is there pain, to rule out prostatitis? When you urinate, do you have problem? Have you had gonorrhea in the past? Those questions that we doctors ask when you come, therefore, these things, so that we rule them out. So when the result is coming, we can interpret them with some measure of sense and information. So he may ask you to do that. So he may do all those tests too. Then, where we have the capability, if you say you insist this is what you want, there's a family history, I don't want to have this, let me send you to do an MRI. The MRI shows minute lesions. It's very good in delineating soft tissues. Very minute lesion, suspicious lesion. In fact, to guide them directly to that lesion and biopsy it. That's what it does. So those are some of the things. Those are how it is done. In an environment, sometimes, since we don't have that MRI readily available, we do ultrasound-guided biopsy. So they put ultrasound to direct and then stick a needle directly to that lesion. They may take up to 6 samples in different places, so that there's a way they interpret it and give it a score. It's called the Gleason score. So there's a way they interpret it and tell and make meaningful deduction from it. Thank you.
Okay. One more. Yeah. Are there any lifestyle choices that can either increase or reduce the occurrence of this?
Yes. We just discussed 2 of them today. So anything that will predispose an individual to developing cancer, like we just discussed, alcohol and cigarette smoking, that's one. Environmental factors, sometimes where we work, our exposure to industrial chemicals can be some of those non-modifiable factors that we talk, some of those modifiable factors, risk factors that we discussed. So those are the life modifications that will do what we take in to the body. Anything that will predispose the body to developing a malignant, to have mutations, we avoid it. Radiations, that's why we don't ask people to go and do X-ray. In the environment, sometimes maybe we have radiation. Radiation is something that happens everywhere. But the degree of radiation is what is important. The dose that we take is very important. The sun sends radiation, radiant energy radiation to us. The light we have is, this thing is sending radiation, but they are not particularly harmful. But there are places where we enter where they have radioactive element that we're not aware of. We may be playing with it literally, but potentially they can cause disruption in the DNA and predispose us. So those are things that you can modify. So anything that you can do to reduce the risk rather of developing cancer, because the cancer is not particular to prostate, to most organs, many organs in the body. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is something, well, I don't know any other better way to say this, but it's scary what you have described, and concerning. What I find very concerning especially is the fact that the way we keep telling men to go check, and most of the times it's rectal examination that they are going to do. If the doctor does not see a symptom, they go home, they are done. But you have pointed out that those symptoms that they find by a rectal examination is already stage 3. So it's already advanced at that stage. So are we just checking for when a person is already too late to be helped? Since that is the primary thing that is done, as like you said, in our own environment here, go and check for prostate. I tell my father that all the time. But the first thing that is always done is do rectal examination, ask the questions that you said they ask, and then if there are no signs, then they go. But then if there are signs, then it's already too late now, is it not?
If I understand your question, your line of thought, I also mentioned that if you have a risk factor, you have a family history. Let me go to that slide. See that? Family history. Triple that risk. So if you're giving somebody, if you give a doctor that history, the doctor will not just do a digital rectal examination and let you go if he doesn't find anything. He's going to go to the next step. He's going to ask you some questions and he's going to ask you to do a PSA Even if it is not elevated, you have a family history. You don't want that to happen. He's going to ask you to do an MRI. You understand? And so, once the individual reaches the age of 65, the least the doctor will ask for, if it's for screening, the MRI. So that you'll be absolutely sure. You just don't send the patient, the individual back, everything is fine, PSA is okay. The least urologists usually will recommend is the MRI. Usually the biopsy is when it becomes suspicious. And that the pointer to that is an elevated, unusually elevated PSA. So they will take an ultrasound. Something is producing this antigen. Let's look for it. Let's biopsy it. That's what happens. So the list for screening for somebody that is 65, somebody that has a family history, and a black person is an MRI for screening, so that you don't just let the individual go, since the individual has presented himself to the facility. I hope I have answered the question. Thank you.
All right. Excuse, sir. Why do they call it black race? That's a challenge. Is it that they compared to both the Americans, those who are dark in skin also, then they now said those with black? I saw you wrote black race. Yes, then we have a challenge with that, because we as Africans, is it that you call us Africans? You don't call us black people. Is it based on pigmentation that people have that challenge?
Well, in science, and we don't delve into that narration, that controversy. If you wish to say you are African, fine. If you say you are Negro, fine. If you say you are black, fine. Important thing is, what is the genetic? The name usually doesn't matter. So it's just like a reference. So I matter if I just say Negroes, some people find it offensive. If I can say Africans, some people still find that offensive. Let's say the Americans, we call them Africans, they don't like it. I don't think many of them say this one, many of them prefer, there is a term they call themselves there. So those ones are names, but what is important is what has been observed. This is science. Science observes and reports. So a study was done across the whole population in the US, and the proportion of the individuals that were found to have this condition was overwhelmingly African Americans. See, that's a graph, that's a listing there. So the naming, I can change it and put other things that will suit the environment.
Have they done it for Africa, or that's the statistic to check us here to know that this reoccurrence is?
No, if you see our data too, where's my? It's sub-Saharan Africa. The leading cause of death. So if you do it in Africa, you have to have a comparison. The way you're talking, if you're doing a study, say in Africa, you have to have something like that to compare that is in Africa. But Africa is Africa. Black is black. That is sub-Saharan Africa. You understand? So you don't have anything to say. You want to compare. You carry this thing, the data come here. Everybody is uniform. It's a homogeneous population. But there, it's not homogeneous. So among the population, there is Hispanic, there is African, there are Caucasians, all these things. So they did it across board and found that across board is overwhelmingly found in African Americans. The reason is unknown.
Moses is trying to look for a loophole in statistics to escape.
Thank you very much for all we have learned here. And I think we will pay for your come for anything like, let's say, yeah, what do you call it? Consultancy from your agency. I believe you charge us more. But for this, we have got all this knowledge free. Thank you. And what's the relations between gonorrhea, STD, and this prostate cancer?
Well, thank you for the question. As far as I'm aware, there is no direct correlation between STD and prostate cancer. So the studies have not, I've not seen any study that compared, that tried to see, because usually we've tried to, when a pathology, when a condition is found, they try to sit down to see among these individuals what is common among them. That's why I tell you about this question when they do science, statistics, what is common. That's how they came out with the age, because a lot of information is, when you come to hospital, a lot of information. So maybe your previous history of sexually transmitted disease may be there, but apparently it didn't come out that this has a direct link to individuals that eventually develop prostate cancer. The 3 risk factors, and then the modifiable, those as maybe the environmental chemicals, the radiation, cigarette smoking, all those ones have been what has been found to be common to that. So I can't say I know the direct answer to that question, but from my knowledge, I don't think there's a direct correlation, maybe indirect, but a direct correlation I'm not aware of. Maybe the consequence of long-term effect, maybe gonorrhea, for instance, can cause induration in the urethra. Induration is like a noodle around there. Not a stricture, it can cause a stricture, but it can cause an induration. Induration is, it heals, it gets well, but it becomes like a ball. So it blocks that. It blocks, maybe if it blocks it distal, that process may predispose the individual. But I'm just thinking like a scientist. But like, if you have a lot of people put together, like a large population, and make a study, I've not seen where STD is directly related to an individual developing prostate cancer. Thank you.
Sir, before today, most people who have spoken about prostate cancer hammered on the age. So I want to ask, is the younger generation, I mean, mostly 45, 50, so from 30 downwards, are they safe? Or are there certain things you can begin to do when you're younger to prevent getting to that stage? I mean, people from 30, or has there been cases, exceptions, where people who are younger have actually been found with the sickness?
Thank you for that insightful question. The answer is yes. There are cases where individuals that are younger than the age outlined here, like 45, I think I'm aware of a patient now, around 45, that has a advanced stage prostate cancer. The reason for that, I can only speculate, but a very strong family history. Most cancers that occur in younger individuals, if you find out breast cancer, prostate cancer, uterine, any cancer that occur in young individuals, there is a genetic or familial predisposition. So the genetic predisposition has been defined. Maybe the individual is born with a genetic defect that over time now manifests. Again, I'm a pediatric surgeon. There are individuals born with genetic defect in the gene that is responsible for, say, development of the kidney. With time, they may develop kidneys that are not, they are functioning, but they start having risks of developing cancers because of that defect. There are some individuals that are born with a syndrome that we call Beckwith-Weatherman. Don't worry about that. They have some genetic defect that predisposes them to developing problems in the kidney, problems in development of the genital, their external genitalia, and some other problems. Those individuals with time, not all of them, are now predisposed to developing cancers of the kidney, like nephroblastoma. We call them nephroblastoma in children, which can occur in older children, but they didn't develop it when they were much younger. It's usually when they get to around 3 years, 5 years. Those are genetic predisposition. So younger individuals can develop cancers. The other one is the family history. When there's a family history, there's a strong chance that a young individual, even if we call it family because somehow we've not been able to scientifically sit down and say this is the gene, but we know it's in the family. This is the gene that's responsible. So to give it a broad umbrella, we say it's familial. So there is a chance that that defect has been transferred to this individual amongst many in that family. So that individual may stand a chance of developing prostate or any cancer early. And those cancers are usually aggressive. They don't give the individual time. Same thing with breast in female. They're aggressive. So yes, the answer is yes. Younger individuals have been found, reported to have this condition. So it's important that if there is a family history, you do that screening early. Don't wait for the 63, 65 years. We already have the non-modifiable. We are Africans. And the study observed, it didn't show, observed that the occurrence is high. So that's how to go about it. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
Is the cost of screening to check, that's the MIR, because I worked with, there's a construction we did, and we had all these MIR rooms, and where they did. So basically, is the cost or is the main challenge? So that's why you have to start with the observation screening to be checking and keep going. Wow.
You're absolutely correct. If that's a question or an observation.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it with the statistics. That's why we don't have much data about it coming from African point of view. That means we don't have people going to check and they are not sure of if this is really the prostate cancer that is disturbing them.
Well, you're sounding as if you're a statistician or you're interested in statistics. Well,
the reason why I'm making this is because sometimes the fear of it creates people to start panicking, and then they now start being, it's like most likely is it, without really having the belief that it's not what they have, really.
Well, if I understand you well, the fear of it, yes, you are right. However, like in the West, they are also human beings like you and I. They also fear. But what they've overcome is, well, let me not say what they've overcome. They've largely overcome that fear. Why? Because of information. So what you and I are doing today is part of that information drive to help people overcome that fear. As per the data, why we don't have data because of the cost. You are right, somehow. There are other factors which, if we go into, we'll be deviating, but we can still do that and speculate. In an average African setting, the thing now is survival, right? Who bothers about going to do screening for what? I'm not feeling sick. Why should I go and screen? I have family to feed. Relations are there, my work. I don't have time. That concern is there, but it's relegated to the background. You're dealing with some things first. If in this our setup, say I want to come to this place today, I don't have to worry about fuel. I get up 6, join the transport, come here, I'm here. But all those things I don't have to take. Then I start, it gives me time to start, okay, you think of, and then they are more organized. They where they are now is not where they were. They were like disorganized the way we are. But the difference is that they sat down to analyze, to do statistics, take data, act on it gradually. Even as we are talking, they are improving. They sit down and analyze, what are we doing now? Is it working? Is it not working? Let's change policy. So statistics and data drives their policy. Unlike here, where it's how the leader feels. What he wants, that's what drives this thing, which is not right. So you are partially correct that maybe cost, maybe this thing. But if leadership, I'm only speculating now, could make the cost cheaper by making insurance readily available to people, they will bear the brunt of that. The individual will have to pay just small. And you have that you have that the screening readily available to anybody that wants it. If you go to some places, things that you do CT scan, we are paying big money. You have CT or MRI, you're shouting it's a big machine. If you go to other countries, they are lying in the corridor, CT scan machine, the corridor. They just drag it and use it. You want MRI, you have complex of maybe 10 or 20 in one place. So those ones have become over time common. It's just the way I send someone to go and do stool MCS here. That's how they do it there. It's covered. So that way they can have a lot of data and make their society better. Of course, the data is what they send to us and we use. We don't have a setup where we collect our own data, make our own analysis, and tailor it to our purpose. I'll give you one small example. A Nigerian scientist went to the UK. I think it's from Ibadan, and was doing a study. They brought out a kit during this COVID-19 time, the kit to test for something, I can't remember. But what you observe is that they didn't take the demography of Africans into that. So you can take it, you can check and be really positive. You observe that he's a sickler. You observe that his own test came out to be positive. So he told them that, look, you did not take the demography. That sickle cell disease is common in Africa. You didn't put that into consideration while you're designing this strip. So the result cannot be 100%. And they looked at it. So our peculiarity is here. If we wake up eventually, we'll have a lot of data information that we can bring and present. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any more concerns or questions? Okay. So, thank you very much, sir.
Also, because of the things that we do here, sometimes what actually happens is ignorance. Africans, we say, well, what I don't know won't kill me. So instead of going to find out, going for tests and so on, they just stay back until it is too late. It happens to us here, it happens also in the hospitals. By the time they get to see the doctors, things are already too late, just because of what I don't know will not kill me. The truth is that what you don't know will really kill you. So I think we also need to watch out for ignorance. And then I was going to ask, what about these young people who go for mining and inhale all those chemicals and so on they inhale? Does it have a way of affecting, their system?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, there are data that have documented that. The thing is, it may affect them acutely in the sense that they may come down with some issues of respiratory tract, other infection or allergies. But long term, a good proportion. Some of them eventually develop lung cancer because of exposure to dust, silicon. So those ones too, because of the chronic irritation, they may not feel it now. Usually it's seen when the individual is much, much older. They have stopped that activity for a long time. So that is when the effects start showing, and usually in the airway. Yeah.
All right. Gentlemen, can we please be up on our feet and give our facilitator for today, Dr. Benjamin Kagoro, a big resounding applause. Thank you so much. And while we are still standing, I would like to ask one of the co-reps to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this. This was wonderful. This is something that we know that we need, and you can tell from the questions that you really impacted us a lot, and maybe we might end up owing 10 extra 10 or 20 years of our life to you. So thank you very much, and God bless you, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And this is the ECBI, the Excellence Capacity Builders Initiative, sir. Here we build men to become who they are meant to be in society. And on behalf of the faculty and the whole body of ECBI, I want to say thank you very much for coming, sir. We really appreciate it. This was really, really awesome. Thank you so much, sir. All right. All right, gentlemen, we can be seated. All right. We would have a little meeting before we'll close. So maybe we'll just say closing prayer now so that we can dismiss, have our lunch, and then we'll come back in for a little meeting. Okay? All right. You're a culprit today. Pray for us, sir.
In Jesus' name, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, our Lord and our God, our Maker, Creator of heaven and earth, Father, we want to sincerely appreciate you for a day like this. We appreciate you for this moment. We thank you so much, Father Lord, for the initiative, oh God,